thank you so much for the work that you do. I know that to be engaged in something like this is stressful, and you're always learning new things. I as a student at UMKC, did #1 magazine 1 year as the editor-in-chief, and found myself enmeshed in InDesign. I had no idea what I was doing, because when you are used to Microsoft Word, InDesign is not a foreign country, but another planet to have experience.
Hallelujah.
So there's some common ground, but I hope you learned a lot. At one point I had enlisted a cousin of mine to help me, and who had no idea what he was doing either, and we ended up just sort of shipwrecked. We had to beg the people at Bookmark Press for help, and they thankfully saved the magazine. But yeah, I love this. This is such a beautiful magazine, just visually stunning. I think the most beautiful yet, and I've contributed 4 maybe. I remember the last live reading was 2019. And both Marcus and I were here for that, and that was great. You know, there was more food, I think, at that time.
There was. Yeah. There was.
I think Jermaine Thompson and I were looking at it afterwards. We're like, should we like get a garbage bag or something?
I think I gave you a garbage bag.
And take us home. Because it was like there was a lot of fruit, a lot of fruit, and a lot of vegetables. Anyway. It was fun, yeah, this is fun too. Very different feel though. Where was the 2018?
Crossroads Gallery.
Crossroads. Yeah. Is that in on campus?
No, we've sold the building. Or I don't know if it's sold, but the gallery's now moved here. So that was the one on 19.
Well, that's a memory. And then of course we went, live readings were discontinued for 2 years, I think. 20 and 21, and here we are in 22, back with a live reading. So it's great. I mean, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having us and setting up this reading. There are, I think because of the pandemic, obviously fewer and fewer opportunities to do things like this, and I do miss it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. As the 2 poems in the magazine probably indicate clearly enough, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now, it occurs at the intersection of parenthood and cancer. A lot of you will notice that I'm sort of cradling my left arm. Since my seizure in 2014, have suffered from left-sided weakness and a deficit on the entire left side of my body, but most prominently in my hand, and I happen to have lost complete function in my left hand over the summer of 2021. So that completely went away mysteriously. I'm on chemotherapy right now, but no more radiation. And so yeah, is it like 7? That's when I take my anti-nausea. So I think it's in my pocket, and I'll take it in a minute after the reading. All right, so did a lot of talking with Jordan about his long poem class on the walking poem, and so he was kind enough to share some of the materials which I enjoyed from the class, and in connection with that, I'm going to read my walking poem. Walking with Omi Dawn, I call her, that's her dinosaur name. She is now 2, and we take walks together. She's my walking partner. Cars whiz around the bend, below the mildewed bridge. I override your squiggly will with man force. You step on a sidewalk, beetle by accident, an ant on purpose. The first drops its white glob in stillness. The second stutters. Sun clearing the cloud bank draws a long line of cloud. Sidewalk chalk. Our silhouettes sprawl on the lawn. Yours is short, mine longer. When a fly dies in the window track, ants carry away the body. I ask you to be kind. Oh me, I plead, be kind to plants and animals. Cars whiz, I'm kind of in the light here. I'm gonna step aside. Cars whiz around the bend. I am talking from somewhere far above your head, an outline in the scrawl of clouds. And then this other poem is about my firstborn, who is 4. I have a 4-year-old boy, Theo, a 2-year-old, Omi, or Naomi, and my wife and I just had a baby, so she is 3 weeks old, I think now. She was born on March 22nd. Her name is Genevieve. But this is about Theo. Augury. Age 4, my son tells me I am going to be killed. Age 34, I argue, but the augurs of the internet agree with my 4-year-old. I am going to be killed licking an envelope or nodding off in the passenger seat. The statistics entangle me in grief. There are bright nights, stadiums filled to capacity with daddies who try to argue as their rogue heirs slap them in the face, punch them in the penis, and toss their glasses of water in the shattering driveway. Dressed up as ghosts for Halloween, these terrified children terrorize, haunting their own bedroom closets. Truth or dare? It's time to say goodnight. Turn out the light. So those were the ones I was happy to find a home for in Sprung Formal. Really cool, guys. Thank you for accepting those into the magazine. And this one is also a Theo poem, I think. The title of the poem is The Boy Who Wouldn't Share. And it's an actual book he found at the library, and we kind of got fixated on it there for a week or two, but I decided I didn't particularly care for it, and this is the poem that sort of tells us why. Morning my fingers wake to discover their nails archaeologically dug into the soft meat of my palm, fossilized. I don't want to sneak a peek at my future. The well-meaning Velcro strap given the slip while I slept, some bodyguard. And my fingers all palsied up together like that don't bode well for their wrist. Speaking of which, I have to remind myself not to take some goblins personally. I know the artist is only looking for a vehicle for some inward ugliness. But did they really have to steal my car, my critical condition to get the point across? The irony of reading this at the KC Art Institute just dawned on me. Some artist speaking to artists. Couldn't Edward the Frightful have had thick, muscular wrists and still have been hideous to his sister Claire? Am I really going to be so unattractive even my own wife is repulsed by me? I pry my hand out of my hand and ignore the temptation to stay in bed. I had an idea about this. The back deck broke its perfect silence of snow yesterday and passed along through the night. Only some crackling, brittle shells of ice, encouraging a walk in the moonlight. Now there's a children's book I like. Speaking of magazines, that one came out in a webzine called The Handy Uncapped Pen, which is handicapped and handy uncapped. So that they have acute interest as I do in disability. I mean, I feel my disability is quite on display at this moment, standing before you. Whereas, like, if I'm walking, I can probably sort of draw in my left arm, even under the cover of a house coat or something, a jacket that I'm not wearing. And this poem I was happy to have placed in a magazine called Rust and Moth that have been rejecting me for years. I think those of us who are writers know that any singular acceptance has a backdrop of the abysmal record of rejection. And that's true for all of us, I'm afraid. But what the poem more specifically is about with relation to my children is I had to make a decision last year if I was going to continue to write poetry, it was going to have to be while they are no longer awake. And that meant waking up at 6 instead of 7. But what happened when I started doing that is my kids just woke up at 6. So I was like, well, I'm screwed. Anyway, so my mom was like, well, you go wake up at 5. And so I do. I do that, yeah. I actually grind the coffee beans the night before. I wake up at 5 and I push the button on the coffee maker. And for a while I was really paranoid about the beep, beep, beep after it was brewed, because I was like, that's gonna wake them up. But it doesn't, so I found a happy place. And this poem is called Abandon. That's what it's about. Well, that's the backdrop. Pigeons roost in the eaves of the abandoned station. You remember, abandon, what life was like before children. The wreck before recklessness. The quiet of pigeons roosting precedes any arrival of the Amtrak. You remember life before arrival, before the schedule, the routine. Now hours crowd the platform. You have to rise in the dark tunnel with one lamp on, one headlamp, to reach the abandoned station, while your roosting pigeons dream in bedrooms of becoming doves. That's the thing about abandon, the slumber of the platform, form before content. It's always ready to throw itself away, poised and ready to jump in front of the train. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.